Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars.com. Sunday night about 9:30 p.m. and I figured I'd get out here. Still super cool, didn't have as much rain today, but kind of stayed overcast most of the day. Temps didn't climb that much, and it's just kind of too nice to not be out here. So, yeah, I'm going to try to get some stuff done here so we can spend more time on the truck during the week. And we're going in, I believe this will be KC Tool Haul number 84. So this stuff, again, dates back quite a while. And we're going to throw in a bonus item that we picked up from a subsequent sale. That just kind of seemed to fit here. So, as with any order from KC Tool, you place it, doesn't matter if it's $1,000, $1, $10, you get a bit of thanks. It's currently shipping as a number 2 Phillips from Witte. Again, not that long ago that was a Philo, so if you haven't been paying attention to them, you've just been throwing them around, might want to pull one out, compare it, see which one you like better. If you exceed the $100 mark, which I'm not sure that this stuff actually would. However, we had the Stahlwille breaker bar on this order, which I wound up throwing on Tool Haul 79, so that, in addition to everything, would have done it. You get the German Tool sticker pack. As always with my videos, I've got links to the products and timestamps. I do that solely for your convenience. And with that said, we're just going to jump in right here. This was still the spring essential time, if you will, and I was still stockpiling the Ballistol cans. So when I turned this order in, I bought another one of the little 1.5 ounce cans, and that of course got me a free one. Like I said, I have no shame in accruing the surplus that we have because they're super handy. This is something I'd never tried. At this point, I'd use the little ones. I was like, man, these are kind of handy, you know, I should have been getting more of them. And I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now, the way I could create this, of course, is you take the big can, you know, the spray bottle got cracked when it fell and created like Ballistol here. But I just dumped that on a shop rag, right? Then, of course, with the aerosols, you just spray it, which that's been super handy. But in the events, kind of like a tub of towels type of a scenario, this would come in handy. What's cool about these, first thing first, I believe they were $5.99, which is not that bad if you're the wipe type. Some people are, some people aren't. You either like them or you hate them. Doesn't seem to be too much middle ground. The neat thing, though, as you can see, you get 10 of them, and I'm not going to read that to you because they're individually wrapped. So this isn't, you know, like a sanitizer wipe type of thing your wife or girlfriend makes you buy at the store. You pull one out, if the lid gets left up, they dry out type of a deal. These are all individually wrapped. It's like you went into the new chicken store and they have the fancy little wipe your fingers when you're done. So if this is your preferred method, this is something that I've never had on the channel before. It's important that you know they're available. And again, the price isn't that bad. Personally, I think you get the most bang for the buck with something like this. But I've also kind of got accustomed to the aerosols now, so I'm not sure which route we'll go. These will also be in the mix. I've never used one. All 10 are here and accounted for, but it's essentially just a wipe with Ballistol. So if you want to see it in action at some point in time, probably like in one of these random videos I do, I just compile a bunch of footage that doesn't really fit anywhere else. I'll probably take one of these and we'll just clean a bunch of tools with it and see what it does. Does it discolor the handle? Does it clean it super well? What does it do to pliers, you know, or knife blades, or, you know, whatever. We'll investigate it and find out. Up next is this. And this did not come from KC Tool. I think I've hinted at this item for some time. This is a quarter drive SAE set, right? And it was SK, which I believe probably ran 3/16 to half, if I'm thinking right. Or maybe it went 3/16 to 9/16. It totally did. 3/16 to 9/16. So in the deep, 5/32 and 1/8, those are Koken, all right? Our front, our little 6-point shallows here, these are both 6-point. These are all right up until 7/16. They go a size smaller and they stopped a size before SK did. 2 sizes before SK, actually. Nope, I'm sorry, that's a half. It's just this one's been used quite a bit. That's what's throwing me off. I thought it was a Koken as well. So, right, 1 size smaller up through 1/2 inch, and then SK 1 size bigger up through 9/16. Koken is represented here with a 9/16, and Koken is represented here with these 2 tiny, tiny things that I'm sure we'll eventually need and be glad we have. Glaring weaknesses. Number one, we're missing an 1/8 inch shallow, and we're missing both 5/8. It's insanely hard to find those. I think I've had several of you say the same thing. I want to say Blue Point was the answer. I intend to still plan to do the Snap-on tool haul at 10K, and I would consider that Snap-on. I don't know that Snap-on has them, but we'll pull the trigger. This is actually something that I would potentially use. 9/16 is a good stopping point. 9/16 would be used a ton. Really, these three sizes right here would kind of be the bread and butter. 1/4, 5/16, and then 3/8 through 9/16 are sort of like what I typically see. And the rest are just sort of there. Kind of nice to have if we need them. 5/8 not going to be frequently used. You'd probably want to step up to 3/8, but in the event that we're using it as, say, a nut driver type of a thing on a spinner handle, or it's just, you know, finite tight quarters and we need a quarter drive setup, it would be cool to have them. It's just really hard to find anyone that makes them. So if you want to see that happen, spread the word, subscribe. I know a lot of people watch and don't subscribe. You know, you could help out here, and you can further further the content I create. So without further ado, though, we got to tie all this in so you don't think this is just some random interjection. And it was for this. Right here, it is Heyco part number HY0256305. Don't know if you can read that or not, but it is an 1/8 inch by 1/4 6-point socket. Now, price point on this guy, hope you're sitting down, $497. All right. Not that bad, but you know, it's one of those deals. It is hard, it's legitimately hard to find an 1/8 inch drive socket. So the Heyco, the cool thing, you already know my personal preference. I like the Ghidorah, Stahlwille, Hazette, Koken even aesthetic. If I'm going old school American, though, I like the high luster chrome. If I had to pick one or the other, I'd go matte. I just prefer it. I can grip it better. It doesn't glare. Lots of reasons. But this whole thing, I mean, this is American primarily, you know, SK and Wright. And this Heyco is like the one German company that makes their own sockets that's actually kind of got like the American style chrome. So I guess we'll try to get you a good look at that. Again, limited use for this stuff. Every once in a while, though, you come across it, so it's super nice to have. I'm trying to get that to focus without my hand screwing it up. I think you can kind of read Heyco there. It's got the knurling on it. You've got a part number, and right there, you've got the 1/8 of an inch. So, I'm going to tuck that in, and boom, we just lack the two big ones, the 5/8 drive. So, if we can acquire 10,000 subscribers, I'll make you a deal. I'll pick up 5/8 deep and 5/8 shallow 1/4 drive, assuming they still make them. So if you got any other brands you know of, I know a lot of people are like, it's not that you're necessarily a completionist or that you wouldn't have that drive size, you know, in 3/8. It's just a deal. It looks like something's missing, you know, especially like when you have the 1/8 inch deep but not the shallow. It's like, oh, I lost a socket, you know, must have been important. I was using it. And it drives people crazy. So if you know of anything else aside from Blue Point or have a suggestion there, maybe you get shallow from brand X and deep from brand Z, leave a comment, let me know. It won't just help me out, it will help some other people out, I'm sure. Sticking with our Heyco theme, this is kind of a cool deal, and I realize now I forgot to grab the Stahlwille breaker bar, which has been great, by the way. It is Heyco, part number 0400-270. That one's quite the departure from what we just took a look at. This, I want to say, was tool of the day. Even if it's not, you're looking at 3748. This is either something that you're going to be like, wow, you know, that could be really handy. I think I'll grab it. Or it's something that you're like, oh yeah, you're just now finding those things, loser. Or you're like, well, I don't think I would ever use that. And there's probably not much middle ground. I think most of you would be one of the first two options, given you're watching this channel. But it's in my hand. And you think, hey, I don't think you could fit a screwdriver. It's just stubby. It's a stubby. I know it's a stubby. This idiot bought another screwdriver, didn't he? No, you'll be proud. It's this. You're thinking like, oh, what in the world is this? Like some mini hand ratchet thingy-majig? Kind of, but does it ratchet? Indeed it does. Sounds really good. And then right here, if you watch the words Heyco, whoop, I must have it locked out. Now, there we go. Heyco is going towards the socket tray, and then if I rotate this gear again, hear the positive click, Heyco is now coming towards you. So, what is it, you ask? Is it some sort of just a hand ratchet? kind of bulky for that. You know, it seems like they could have done a better job where you grab it, you know, kind of like have finger slots or something. That's not what it is. And it's actually designed to turn something that doesn't ratchet into something that does ratchet, especially in this case, a breaker bar. So with me, I constantly complain about the Capri breaker bar. The handle is too small, the handle is too short, but I find myself always using it, even though it's not ideal from a comfort or ergonomic standpoint. It's just stupid handy. And this is a situation where sometimes you think like, man, you know, if that thing would just ratchet, it'll save me some time. This is your solution. So basically, think of the breaker bar, right? You typically have 180 degrees on it. And this plugs in and it will go the 180 degrees, right? So it's kind of a cool little tool, especially when you can snag it on Tool of the Day. If this is something that interests you, again, the $37.48, I believe, is the standard price. If you want to splurge, I think you can find these from a couple of other manufacturers. I think Koken has them as well. But in terms of German tools, Heyco is going to be probably your best bang for the buck. So there it is, kind of in action there. And I think we're coming off the rails a little bit. Let's go back. Must not have it set or something. Let's try that again, just to be sure. So there's our positive click. Yeah, I must have actually like caressed the wheel wrong with my thumb. I don't know. But, I've never had anything like this. I've never used anything like it, even at work. So I'm kind of excited to actually put it into use because, as I mentioned, there's so many times you're just in a situation where, like, man, I wish this breaker bar ratcheted. Save me time. Now it's not super bulky. Obviously, it's considerably bulkier than, say, a standard ratchet head would be. But it's heavy. That's kind of the part that concerns me. And it's not that it's going to be too much of a load and it's going to pop off type of a thing. It's just coming in, you know, with that swivel. You put a socket on there, you typically have it tight enough, you know, like if you want to come in at a 17.5 degree angle, you can set it up and sort of approach and, you know, have everything deflect just right to catch the socket, you know, onto the fastener. This is a deal where I don't know if it's going to put too much of a load and you're just going to break down, you know, sort of gravity takes its toll and this goes straight down. I don't know. We're going to have to use it. So maybe at the end of the video, I'll remember to grab a breaker bar. That would be a better demo with a breaker bar and socket, but use your imagination for now. So that kind of wraps up the Heyco segment, and we're now headed to Witte. So this is some crazy stuff, and again, it goes back a while. I'm just going to throw these two drivers down. And what this is two things. Number one, around this time, I realized, like, man, you know, I kind of like that handle. You know, it's what I was using at work. I was using a Pro Top to pull staples, you know, out of boxes that motors come in. And that thing would flex like crazy. So I switched to, I have it sitting right here, switched to a striking cap. Why? Because I wanted the tang to run all the way through. That was the sole purpose. You know, yes, you could hammer it. I don't keep a hammer in that bag. I probably should. But this is a tiny, tiny little guy. This is the 4mm tip, or was a 4mm tip. As you can see, it's broken. Now, there's a little bit of deflection in the shaft, right? But it's nothing like the standard version. I have the same iteration of this, just, you know, non-striking cap, so it doesn't have the tang run all the way through. And that sucker, I'm like, I'm gonna break that. Like, I haven't done it yet, but it's gonna snap, and I'll feel really bad because it's a good little screwdriver. So I went with this one, you know, thinking it was kind of like bulletproof, and it was great for a long time. And then I just snapped it, and I was really sad. But what happened is, Witte started just sort of changing everything. They went like the full frontal facelift type of a deal. We just highlighted this in the previous video where we had a Vera come in, right? And they sort of switched up their insulated drivers, and then we saw the same thing with the Philo T-handle, and they're doing the same thing here. So knowing that this stuff was kind of like going away, KC Tool had a like super clearance mode, and Colin was like, man, what do you need? You know, these are going fast. There was a situation where somehow I did not have what I thought that I needed, and I'll showcase that in just a second. Let's see here. Yeah, I have the standard and a striking cap here in this bag. These are, again, reserved for testing, okay? This guy right here is basically a duplicate of that, and I I think that's so I could use this one because I liked it. This one right here, I liked this handle so well, I wanted to step up and get one of these before they were gone. And it is the 5.5. If you take that over to SAE, which is super cool that Witte did this on these drivers, you can actually get that right there. You've got the metric, and then you've got 4, well, that's going to be your inches on the shaft, 7/32. So while that's not like going to be the greatest driver size for everything you would do with a slotted screw, which yes, I still see them, it works really good for some of the staples. Not all the staples, but most of the staples, and that's why that was appealing to me. And then the real kicker though, all this stuff here, okay? Now the Maxx Pros have totally been redone, the Maxx Pro Plus, and then you got, you know, like the Pro Top II, blah, blah, blah. There was something that had gone totally under the radar. And this was ordered quite a while back, and then it just, I kind of had to like wait to get it, you know? And then of course everything changed, but much to my surprise, okay, we had a Witte screwdriver that was just like totally under the radar to me. I don't have one of their catalogs, but I frequently do check it online. Not just, you know, like KC2, but like I actually go to the German website and like look at them. There's a lot of cool stuff, you know, that you might see some of in the future. But this particular deal, it would retail for $58.54. It's their part number is 670063. It is a 6-piece set, slotted and Phillips. And I'm just going to slide it down for you. Okay. This is the old guard, but it was very important to get because it's different than the Pro Top, and it's different than the Pro Top 2 Impact. Okay. So I'm going to open up this little bag of archived drivers for our tests. I guess I just need one of them, actually, since we got the duplicate guy. So this gets very, very complicated. There's so much going on behind the scenes you don't know about. This was the old Pro Top 2, okay? Non-striking cap. Looks really nice. Tri-lobe design. Some hate it. I personally like it. Note the absence of a hex bolster and the absence of a striking cap. We come into this one, okay, and we select our Phillips number 2, and we set this back down. All right. You'll note side by side, same driver profile, but we have a massive hex bolster, which is super nice. And instead of the tip identification, we've got the striking cap. So I thought that was that. I thought we had the Pro Top 2 and we had the Pro Top 2 Impact. Well, if you've read this packaging, you know that that's not the case. This is the Pro Top 2 Plus. All right. So if I hold these up, okay, these are the old Maxx Pros, their old handle design. They've got the gray, not black and blue, but gray. This is the Maxx Pro. This is the Maxx Pro Plus. What's different about it? This little piece here where it's sort of like fleeced or flocked or whatever you want to call it. This, I don't know how, but it had gone under the radar completely. So I was stoked to be able to pick this thing up. And we're going to, of course, have it when we get into all these other videos that we have planned. So flipping it around, let's take a look at what they've got to say. And as you can see, that is just what I showed you, the Maxx Pro Plus. Okay, that's sort of like their top of the line. This is the Pro Top 2 Plus. All right, so there is a screw marking symbol going to be present on the Pro Top 2 Plus. You've got a hanging hole that's present on the Maxx Pro. This is kind of a nice comparison between the two, I guess, because it's not equal settings. Anti-slip microfiber surface. That is what both of these have when you go Plus. All right, you get the microfiber, fleeced, flocked, whatever you want to call it. And then both have soft components. You got the multifunction spin zone. You have got the roll, you know, anti-roll movement prevention. Then right here, you've got the finest alloy high special steel shafts. They share that. And then you've got permanently marked blades, which, to be fair, this guy did a lot of prying that it shouldn't be doing. And how did that hold up, you ask? Beautifully. So good you can't see it. No, it's actually, it held up really well. Because you've got to realize, come on. I wish we would have broke a bigger one, because it would be easier to see. But you can see that, right? So you've got all the metric crud, and then you've got 4 by 5/32. It's still there. This is covered in machine shop dust. It's like really hard to clean that stuff off. Maybe we'll try a Ballistol wipe on it. I don't know. But it held up. The writing is still there. So Super, super long term, I don't know. I'm thinking I could probably get it off if I wanted to, or if we just had it long enough. But for the service life that I got from that guy, it did hold up, so that is good to know. Just took the Cuttix back last night when I quit filming, so we'll have to use the card here. And, man, you can tell that's some old tape on there. Don't know how long these have been sitting somewhere. The packaging kind of has that like 80s feel, sort of like sci-fi, travel through space. Maybe Windows 95 screensaver, I don't know. Just the vertical blue with the sort of black vibe right now. I don't know anyone else sees that, but I do, so that's why we're talking about it. We'll open the door on a fantastic screwdriver set. I don't know that we paid the 58 for these, because I think they were on clearance at the time. I think the 58 might be for the updated version of these. Don't hold me to any of that. This happened quite some time ago now, but I kind of want to get to you so I can use them. Number 2 Phillips, it's got to be set aside for testing, but everything else is fair game for me. So we're going to showcase the number 2 Phillips. You get 4, there's no content list that I saw, but it's actually 4 slotted in 2 Phillips, number 1 and number 2. So we're gonna try to get this guy out of here. Good thing there's that non-slip. Man, that feels really good in hand. So think of this basically as a step up from the Pro Top 2 in the sense that if you're working, let's say that you're like the lube tech, you know, you've got your, been in school, you're currently in school, whatever it may be. Only place you could get on was a quick change oil place, but they work with your schedule and it's something to put on your resume. If you're that guy and you're constantly down there and you're having to like take off belly pans and stuff from cars and the previous person didn't tighten things up and it's just oily and nasty and you go, woo, you know, and the drivers, the tools are always slipping out of your oily hands. That's what this is designed to prevent. You know, does it prevent it entirely? Does it prevent it somewhat? You know, it's going to kind of be up to you and what you're doing, but it should help, and that's the main thing. So these are actually kind of a cool color scheme. If you're not a fan of like the bright vivid blue, like this is sort of almost like a stealth color, you know, like seems like they might be able to sell that. Make this gray, like I could see people being attracted to that driver. But you do have the size indicator. There's no hanging hole in these. That's reserved for the Maxx Pros. So I guess it depends, you know, like if you want to hang your drivers, you don't want to buy this set, you want to go Maxx Pro. Blades are labeled really beautifully. Again, this is a bigger shaft, so it's much easier to see, evidenced by me not even having to play with the camera right there. The tips, again, look pretty much standard Witte. It's what we've come to expect. We have an insane number of sets of Witte drivers. It just works out that way. I can't explain it. It's just sort of how it pans out. But yeah, this is their Pro Top 2 Plus. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail because we've got videos planned and you'll see why. We're not going to spend a ton of time here. But we'll get these lined up for you OCD people. You're welcome in advance. Oh, the barcode. Good Lord. It's interesting here. This fit beautifully. That almost starts to get overlapped. And then, if I bring this down, you can actually see what I'm talking about. That just kind of covered up the Pro Top 2. So if you're wondering what order of operations they do here, I would assume that's the last thing that they do. So yeah. Let's see, do they really not? There has to be. There it is. Right here on the bottom. If you're curious, if you're thinking like, man, I want to pick that set up, you're going to get the 4, the 5.5, 6.5, and an 8. I think that's kind of a different, I don't think we usually go that big. It's usually like a 6.5 maybe, so that's kind of cool. And then a number 1 and a number 2 Phillips. So, let's take a look at that big honker in there. Yeah, there she blows, man, I tell you. So, pretty happy with that. Again, I don't think some of the sets have had a slotted that size, so that'll be handy for all sorts of things that I'm sure will 100% be involved with slotted screws. Nothing nefarious or chipping, prying, driving, nothing crazy like that. No, sir. Not on this channel, but yeah, that's what we brought in. What I'm going to do for you now is go grab a breaker bar. We'll set up the Heyco deal. We'll sort of have a better feel for that. Alright, so I grabbed what was handy, and that was going to be this Koken semi-deep and the Stahlwille. Why? Well, everything else is in the roll cart, and it's farther away from me right now. So, we keep it simple, man. You know, do the best I can for you. Right here, the way this would work, and again, it would pair... Heyco's breaker bars are really, really reasonable. If you're wanting like a German breaker bar, but you don't want to spend a ton of money, you can get those for quite the steal. Now, if you look down the barrel of that, you can actually see a Torx fastener. That's interesting. So it looks like we could dismantle this if we wanted to. But we'll plug this in, and we have just converted this breaker bar, which this is pretty new. I haven't used it much. But we have used it, but it's not got the craziest lock mechanism. It's actually a Phillips screw. Looks like a number 3. And so that would be our adjustment. But what I'm getting at is this is not like a 2-decade-old breaker bar. Like I've got an old Proto over there, a 1/2-inch drive, and that thing kind of slops a little bit more because it's old. It's got wear on it. Ooh, this actually pairs really well. The Stahlwille is able, you know, this is what I was talking about. I was afraid it would, like, gravity would pull it down. With this being new, I mean, it's able to maintain the set angle, which is what we want. Now, the Koken sockets are super light, but you get the idea now, right? Are you going to be able to fit this in a lot of places? Maybe not. You know, it's a little bit bulky, but there are times, especially like with a 2-foot breaker bar, where I think to myself, man, if I could just ratchet, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm spinning it, and then you get to a point where you can't spin anymore, and you've got to then like come in and pull the socket off, slide all the way back to the breaker bar, and then come in and build some big extension for use with your, you know, standard ratchet. If you've got the space, particularly, like, don't think of it necessarily as I have it here, but picture this socket is an extension that goes out to here, and then you've got a socket down there. And now this big bulky part is back here. So if you were using your breaker bar, you know, and like you've got the, you know, super, I mean, heck, even like 6 inches, you know, you might could clear. But 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever it might be, 18, 24, you can come in and now we run the thin part, our extension and the socket, to the fastener, and we're able to ratchet with the breaker bar. So if there's ever something that's like stupid stuck, you can't get an impact on it for whatever reason, you don't have one, you don't want to fire up the air compressor, your batteries are all dead, breaker bar, again, I'm old school. I don't break things free with ratchets. I use breaker bars. That's why you hear me talk about them and use them in the Ram Revival and stuff. I protect the ratchets as best I can from abuse. But this is something that could come in handy for a lot of you. So it converted our thrifty little Stahlwille 3/8 breaker bar into a 3/8 drive ratchet. Now you're able to adapt this if you want to. Keep in mind, if you had a 1/4 drive over here, you run the risk of stressing it. If you have it adapted out to 1/2 inch, you run the risk of stressing this. So there are limitations to what you can do with it. The biggest hazard is going to be just, can you fit this profile into a place where you can actually utilize it? If we had, say, a crank bolt, okay, I can stick this sucker down. You know, let's say if this was even like longer, maybe it's like a 24 inch or something. I can get this down from the top. I'm standing up here by the water neck, okay, by the radiator. If I get this down there and I'm like trying to break that sucker free, you know, and if that's all you had even, you could break it with the breaker bar, put this on, and then you can just use it as a ratchet, and you just get that thing off of there, right, in a hurry. There's certain applications I'm sure I'm not thinking of where this would be handier or a better choice, but that's what I'm coming up with. And again, just something like this, you break it free, and then a lot of times, this is what I'm talking about, I come back over here to spin it, but you know how then the threads will be gummed up, and you're like, oh, you just can't get it, and you need to like throw it up and turn it, but you can't because there's a cross member over here, so then you have to pull it off, you have to spin it, you have to reseat it, you have to come from this way until you hit the cross member, and then you come back down and hope you can spin, and then the threads are gummed again, that type of a thing. This is where then you just go to town, right? You hit that stopping point and you ratchet, and you get your fastener out. So cool little tool, especially since we got it on sale. This is one of those things you'll have to remember that you have. If you don't have something in mind where that's going to be perfect for you, you have to remember that you've got it, and you have to put it somewhere so you'll use it. And then you can kind of see like, hey, that was totally worth it. This thing's awesome. Totally buying a 1/2 inch. Or you could be like, well, you know, glad I got it on sale because it's cool, but I don't really use it that often, you know. The other thing you could do, I'll pull this breaker bar out, you could come in, and I mean, you can literally, let's say that it's a stupid tight confine here, and I don't mean necessarily, you know, where this is an issue, but maybe you've got like a, let's just say a roll cage, right, and you're coming in and you got to get to the shock bolt, And if you have your ratchet over here, like everything would work fine, except there's a fender here. And so it chops this off and you're not able to ratchet anything. Maybe you come in with the socket on and you reach over the bar. There's, like I said, the sky is the limit. If you can just break it free and then use it as a hand ratchet type of a deal. Let me know. I tell you what, that might be the best thing to do, is just let me know. What would you do with it? What application do you use something like this where it's just the perfect tool? And who knows, you might spark some people to pick one up. So, like I said, that I believe was tool of the day. The price is not tool of the day price, so it's not that bad, especially if it is something you're going to use. But that brings us to our final item. I just kind of thought it would be nice to get this thrown in there. And this actually took a while to show up. Let's see. A little over a month, probably about 5 weeks. But what it was, if you did not know, KC tool, anytime, well usually, they may change this, I don't know, but in past years, on July 4th, or the weekend of July 4th, if you place an order, you get a free bottle opener. And that's what we did. We placed an order, we cashed. I think they have sales too. Can't quite remember what we did. But this order was before then. But since we had so much Witte stuff, I thought, you know, it would be cool if we just included this. And what this is again the Maxx Pro line, but this is their cork, or their nature series, right? This is literally cork. If you were curious, like, I'm not faking you out. In fact, you can go back in time if you somehow missed the tool haul. We have, you guessed it, a set of the nature-made screwdrivers. I have to tell you, they're actually pretty comfortable. It's obviously the same idea as this Maxx Pro Plus over here, with the antimicrobial fleece textured stuff, right? But it's cork. Some people might actually even prefer it. I know Vessel has like a cork driver as well. But yeah, I'm actually a fan of it. So I know a lot of you are big time super into bottle openers. If this is one that has evaded you somehow, they are available standalone. I don't think you're going to spend more than like 15 bucks, probably less than that. Or you can just think, hey, every Independence Day, I got to come in, got to remember to place an order so I get a free bottle opener. It'll vary year to year, but this year it was the cork one, which I thought was cool, seems fitting. And the biggest thing with these, and like a practical purpose aside from opening bottles, if you're on the fence, if you've watched all my videos and you're like, I still don't know what screwdriver I want, there's too many to pick from, well, I can tell you what, I personally would go the route of buying, like, just build, you know, a trashy set. You know, if you need 8 different drivers that you use routinely and 2 nut drivers, get one from each different brand and see what you like best. Then it's functional. You might hate it, but you have it and it's functional. The other thing, if you're a collector or you just love bottle openers or you want to give them away type of a deal even, pick these up. It's not typically going to be like the full impression, you know, you don't have like the balance with the shaft and everything, but they're typically pretty bulky, kind of like you'd have on a number 2 Phillips or bigger, and it gives you a good feel for how the handle would be, and that's important to a lot of people. This is another way to accomplish that goal. So, like I said, this order was placed well before July 4th, but since we had the set and the throw-in items that were on clearance, thought it made sense to just go ahead and feature it. So, on that note, that's about it for Tool Haul 84. We got many, many more on the way. I've got them lined up over there, and I cannot wait to showcase them. So, with that said, better check these techs here late Sunday night. It's LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned a little something. Again, if you got any ideas or thoughts on any of this stuff, feel free to leave a comment down below. As I mentioned, on those 5H drives, you want to see me pull that stuff in. If you want to see Mac tool haul, that's 7,500. Snap-on would be 10K. Who knows, maybe I'll even do something special, you know, for like the German tool side of the channel if we get big milestones. All that remains to be seen. Doesn't cost you anything. Just tell other people about the channel if you think they'd enjoy it. And if you haven't subscribed, I encourage you to do so, because otherwise no one will ever find this channel. And if you haven't realized it, I'm that guy. Anything that I make off of this, I throw it into buying more tools or car parts or cars. And I don't anticipate changing anytime soon. So on that front, though, I got to check these texts, see what's going on. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, and I hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop.